For me, I just experienced the passing away of my parents, and whenever somebody dies, we also look into our own mortality, right? That we would die too. We just don't know when, how, where, right? But we will die. Whenever you attend like wakes or wakes, and for us, we didn't have a wake because of COVID, right? And so we just did it through Zoom. And we did a 9-day novena for my parents, and people, at the end of that, people were given the chance to say some words of remembrance about my parents. And I'm glad, they were remembered well. They were remembered well by their small acts of kindness and generosity. They're not perfect. They have their imperfections. They have their weaknesses, of course, but they were remembered well. And I was like asking myself, how will people remember me when I die, right? Maybe people will remember Father Ken. Oh, he just loves adventure. That's all he did. But how do we want to be remembered? Okay, in our first reading today, it's from Sirach chapter 44. It says there, some of them have left behind a name, so that others declare their praise. But of others, there's no memory. They have perished as though they had never existed. Okay, so how do we want to be remembered? Okay, do we want to be remembered by our love, by our joy, by our generosity, or do we want to be just remembered as the person who accumulated a lot of wealth, who has a lot of possession, and yet he left everything behind? Okay, I'm not saying having wealth and possessions are bad. No, I'm not saying that. But what are we going to do with it? What are we going to do with it? Right? Are we just going to use all our wealth and possession for ourselves? Or are we going to share it to the poor, to those who are in need, and also for the advancement of God's kingdom? We have to ask ourselves that. And if we're trying to love as God loves, I guarantee you will be remembered well. You will be remembered well. It says here, but these also were godly men whose righteous deeds have not been forgotten. Their wealth will remain with their descendants. Their offspring will continue forever, and their glory will never be blotted out. So that's what we're aiming for in this life. That's why I encourage you this day or this week, okay, try to imagine that it's your funeral, that you're in the coffin or in the urn, and people are giving their words of remembrance. What do you want them to say about you? Think of 3 things. Don't think of so many things. Think of 3 things. Write it down and try to work on it. But you can't work it on your own. You must go to the source. If you want to be remembered as a loving person, you need to connect with God, who is the source of love. Okay? If you want to be remembered as a generous person, you need to experience the generosity of God in your life so that you will be generous to other people. Okay? If you want to be remembered as a forgiving person, you need to first experience the forgiveness of God in your life. So think of 3 things that you want to be remembered and work on it by the grace of God. Okay? And so that's the thing, because, as I've said, this is the inheritance that will last forever. If we're just going to give money as our inheritance, that will not last long. It will be used up after a period of time. But the inheritance that will last is that they remembered you as a loving person, as a person who loved, who did small things, who loved in small things, but out of great love. So that's our aim in this life. We're just passing in this world. 70, 80, some even died even younger. Right? Make the most out of the time that God, the Lord, is giving us. Obey His commandments. Love. Because at the end of our life, we will be judged by love. And we will also be remembered by love.